Greetings, thank you for lending an ear to the Voice of the Times for Saturday, March 12, 2022. For today's editorial, the UN may be the biggest casualty of the war in Ukraine. On Wednesday, March 2, a full 6 days after the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution condemning the attack and demanding that Russia withdraw its forces. The resolution was hailed as a historic vote, mainly for its lopsided result, 141 nations voting in favor to only 5 against, with 31 abstentions, and because it was characterized as the correction of a failure by the UN Security Council a couple of days earlier to pass a similar resolution. The entire world breathed a sigh of relief when the Russian government, properly chastised by the UN's disapproval, promptly packed up its tanks and trucks and soldiers running amok in Ukraine and sent them home. But wait, that's not what happened at all, is it? As a matter of fact, nothing happened as a result of the UN General Assembly resolution. If anything, the war has become more destructive as Russia resorts to increasingly brutal tactics in the face of a fierce, skillful defense by the Ukrainians. The UN resolution is non-binding and thus carries no penalty for ignoring it, which is exactly what the Russians have done. A resolution by the Security Council might have perhaps had more weight, but because of the way the Security Council is designed, it is rare for that body to actually stop aggression. 5 permanent members of the Security Council, the US, Russia, China, France, and the UK, each have veto power over any measure considered there, and as these countries have historically been the biggest instigators of conflict in the post-World War II era, they use that veto power liberally to prevent any concerted response before it starts. In one of the most comic opera exercises seen in recent years, the emergency session of the Security Council to consider a resolution against Russia's invasion of Ukraine was chaired by Russia. It is remarkable that anyone else even bothered to show up for the meeting. So clearly, it was doomed to failure before it even began. Likewise, the resolution of the larger General Assembly seems to have had no purpose apart from being an expression of sentiment. The UN has had nothing to say about the war in Ukraine since the resolution has passed, leaving it to individual nations or groups of nations to respond to the conflict as they see fit, which, ironically, is exactly what the UN was intended to prevent when it was first formed in the last days of World War II. While it is true that a great deal of development work around the world is carried out by UN agencies, an increasingly greater share is being contributed by smaller, more focused entities, multilateral development banks such as the Asian Development Bank and World Bank, individuals countries' development agencies such as the Japan International Cooperation Agency, or regional groupings of nations such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN, or the African Union. The same is true of political concerns. The swift, consequential response to Russia's aggression by the European Union stands in sharp contrast to the UN's endeavoring. The UN is an admirable concept, but has sadly proven to be disappointing in execution. The standard argument against suggestions that the UN need not exist has always been the conflict around the world would be greater without the UN, even as imperfect as it is. The war in Ukraine seems to show that this is not the case. For that matter, the 8-year conflict in eastern Ukraine preceding Russia's invasion, or the ongoing war in the Yemen, or the decades-long strife between Israel and its Arab neighbors are significant counter-arguments as well. The leadership of the UN and its member countries should recognize that the world body is at a crossroads and decide whether they want it to be relevant and serve its original noble purpose. We would hope so, but it is clear that comprehensive changes to the UN need to be made in order for that be realized. And that's the editorial for Saturday, March 12, 2022. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print. Subscribe to its digital edition or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram and listen to the voice of the Times.